I think the future of banking will be conversational. And what I mean by that is, when banking started, initially you had to type everything on a computer. Then you started to do clicks. And then touch screen came. Now you do touch, correct? From typing to clicks to touch. The next evolution, I think, will be speaking.
So why do you think AI and data has been an essential factors in the development of the banking industry?
Welcome back to the Pioneer Podcast, a brand new series by Techcombank, where we provide in-depth insights, valuable experiences, and practical key takeaways in the banking and finance sector. Each episode features distinguished guests, including leaders, experts, and business partners of Techcombank. And you can find the show on the Techcombank's platforms, including YouTube and Spotify. So today, I am delighted to introduce our guest, Mr. Santhosh Mahendiran, Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Techcombank. And together, we are going to explore the fascinating topic of harnessing the power of data and AI on the journey of banking transformation. So first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So let's start a little bit by knowing yourself. I don't know you yet, but I know that a lot of Techcombank would like to know more about you. So can you introduce yourself and how long have you been in Vietnam?
Yeah, my name is Santhosh. I've been in Vietnam precisely for 4 years, 3 months, 12 days.
Oh, really? You remember every day? You count every day?
I don't count, but it's easy to remember.
So what brought you to Vietnam?
Techcombank.
Oh, okay. So before joining Techcombank, I know a little bit that you have a solid background working at major companies in different parts of the world. So can you share a little bit of your experience and what at Techcombank attracted you and made you come to Vietnam?
So the truth is, I spent 10 years in Standard Chartered at Singapore, and prior to that, I was at Citibank. And I had a great run in both the places. It was a fascinating experience. And prior to joining Techcombank at Standard Chartered, I was managing a large team, leading projects in the global division. And then Techcombank came calling. Truth be told, prior to Techcombank calling, I was already in discussion with an organization in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And then when Techcombank came in, the allure of working in an emerging market and the ability to build something new and the ability to actually build and scale a bank was extremely fascinating. So as much as I had worked extensively around the world, I had never worked in an emerging market, and I have never taken a bank to grow from 1 to 5 at scale. So this provided me a fascinating opportunity. And Vietnam is one of the fastest growing markets in the world. And the opportunity to build proved to be too much to resist.
Wow, great to hear. So we're going to talk a lot about your work and your expertise at Techcombank. But now I want to spend just one question to ask. What is something that interesting about you but unrelated to work they want to share to our audience?
Probably I'm better at cooking than working with computers.
Cooking?
Yeah.
Can you cook any Vietnamese food?
Yeah. I can make a bún riêu.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, I'm a vegetarian, but I learned how to cook. I can make some spring rolls.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Oh, the great food in Vietnam. I know, but now, yeah, let's set apart for the food and now just jump into the main topic that we're going to talk about today, about data and AI. So the first question, I know that Techcombank is preparing to enter the 5th year of the 5-year transformation strategy based on the strength of 3 pillars, the digitalization, data, and talent. So looking back on the journey so far, what significant advancements has Techcombank achieved?
So if you look at our journey, it's been fascinating in the past 5 years. So from the first initial offices in Hai Ba Trung to our office in Quang Trung, that itself has been a transformation.
Yeah.
But more importantly, what we have done is we have built foundations and we have laid the platform for us to actually expand at scale. If you look at the original Techcombank business model, we were very good in what I call the top of the funnel thing. So we were very good with wholesale banking partners and key clients. And we were very good with our ultra-rich and private banking client and affluent client. Now, if you actually want to go down the value chain, and when I say value chain, I'm talking about various segments, whether in the corporate and wholesale banking world or in the retail banking world, you cannot just add more and more people. For that, you need to have platforms, and not just platforms, you need to have technology, digital data, and all this need to come together, and you need to implement them at scale. So what we have done, a few remarkable achievements is that we have revamped our entire mobile banking app, right? So I think we have one of the best apps, if not the best app in Southeast Asia. Then a huge shout out to our digital team. We have a great cloud platform infrastructure from a technology perspective. Our technology teams have done a fantastic job in probably putting most of our systems to cloud. We still have a core banking and our CMS on-prem, but most of the other systems have already been migrated to cloud, and we are one of the first banks in Vietnam to have such a pace of migration to cloud. On the data front, we have been able to build a data lake, but more importantly, it's just not about building a data lake, but we have been able to actually monetize part that we have built. And we have, our chairman used to talk about us having Excel excellence, where we had thousands of Excels and probably tens and thousands of Excels. Today, we don't have any Excel in the bank.
Yeah.
If there is an Excel, it's primarily used for analysis or basic purposes, but our ALCO and EXCO predominantly run on automated reporting. So we will be able to slice and dice and view those automatically. So the key point is transformation has happened every level.
Yeah.
There's still a lot more to do, but from a foundations perspective, we actually have some of the best foundation that some of the other banks can only aspire to have. Two, we have also made a transformation in terms of people, culture, and journey, right? Our people have become that much more adept at understanding what transformation means and what that impact means to them.
Yeah.
So they have also upskilled themselves, and some of them have really taken on bigger roles.
Yeah.
And three, I think with the ability of these platforms and our people change, we have been able to produce what I call CVPs that other competitors can only aspire. We are able to offer something unique to our customers that truly exemplifies the Techcombank spirit.
So a lot of work has been done, but I know that a lot more we need to do in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so today we talk about data and AI. So why do you think AI and data has been an essential factors in the development of the banking industry?
If you look at it, right, and historically, data and AI have always been important to all organizations, just not banks. But the problem has been that how do you actually harness this? And how do you create differentiation using this? That's been the key question. And that's always been a challenge with all organizations, primarily because data has been complex. Now, what has happened? There are three things that have started to kind of improve in the last decade. And the biggest advancements are your processing capacity, right? And you're able to pack more CPUs and GPUs into smaller chips. Two, the cost of storage has dramatically come down. Your processing capacity has increased, your storage costs have come down, your processing costs have come down. And last but the most important thing is the volume of data and the variety of data generated, because we live in a digital world, has been phenomenal. Every year, we are probably generating more data than we did in the last 3 to 4 years put together. So this combination of humongous amount of data, the fact that the world is entirely moving towards a digital platform, new generations are all digitally native, then the fact that your processing costs are coming down tremendously, your processing speeds are increasing dramatically, your storage costs, your technology costs are coming down, and you have cloud enablement is a perfect recipe. Now, what has this done? Earlier, AI and other analytics, which was purely in the research in the academia field, and only where few people could have access to, has suddenly now become mainstream. Now, people have started to realize that, hey, you can actually take what was there probably which was given access to only a few people, and then take it and actually make sense out of it and actually create differentiation. There have been companies that have been truly built on AI and data alone. If you look at Facebook is a great example. It's a data company. It does, and if you look at many other companies, Google, these are all data companies. But now more and more companies have started realizing across the world, Hence, for banks, which primarily the most critical asset for any bank is data. And given the fact that banks entirely, it's people and data, and given the fact that it was entirely not harnessed to its potential, now given the fact that all these tools are now available, you can actually implement them at scale. And now you can start creating value and differentiation like never before. That is the secret recipe that has unlocked data and AI like never before.
Yeah, so if we talk about Techcombank in specific, how has leveraging data and AI helped Techcombank to develop a competitive advantage?
So if you look at Techcombank, right, I think using data and AI, I'll talk about 3 specific examples, right? So let me be very specific on how we have tried to create differentiation. The first is what I call the customer brain, right? We have a customer brain which has been built. It's what we have essentially done is taken all the data flowing across all our systems and centralized the decision-making process across the bank. Both the online, offline, all channels are kind of orchestrated using this central brain. So meaning to say a front end, whether it is our Adobe or a Salesforce, is now not having their own decision to be done, but it's kind of driven by what this central customer brain actually instructs us to do. It's very intuitive. Think about it. If you had implemented Salesforce or Adobe, typically what you do is you just ship them the data and then a portion of the data, and then they make the decisions based on whatever data is available. But what we did is slightly different. We do the decision making through the central brain and then ship the outcomes to Adobe and Salesforce, or for that matter, any other channel, be it the branch or the front line or a mobile or our telephone banking. And that's where actually the contact with the customer happens. But the decision making is centralized. And that's very, very unique and extremely powerful because now you have the whole data to play with. In the earlier case, you never had all the data to play with. Now the brain controls the orchestration of the entire bank's activities. That's one. The second is a product called LACE, which is called Lead Allocation and Curation Engine. So what we do is typically the lead allocation used to be a black box process. I take these leads and then I say I want to assign it to this branch, to this RM based on a set of rules and then based on a set of parameters. What we have done is now again, as an extension, we have fed in all this into this system called LACE, which is again built in-house. And this determines which lead to allocate to which RM at which branch. So essentially, this whole curation process becomes automated and it becomes transparent. And as a result, when the RM gets the lead, he or she knows why they got the lead, along with the explanation of why this lead was assigned to them. And this truly makes this whole thing pretty fast, not only just fast, but that much more intelligent and that much more seamless. The third example where we have actually implemented AI is an example of our churn models, right? And one of the biggest challenges that banks face is retaining customers. And what we have done is we have implemented churn models, which help to actually retain our customers. And today we have improved our retention year on year by 6%. And that's been pretty impressive. And actually, to be honest with you, I think there's a lot more we can do, right? And we have huge opportunities. I gave you 3 very specific examples where Techcombank is trying to create the differentiation. But there are many more areas where we are working on. And as I speak, we have multiple projects and initiatives running where we are embedding AI and data and analytics across our entire ecosystem.
Yeah, I can see like very small 3 applications among many. But the doing is really difficult and a lot more difficult than the saying. That's why many companies and banks, they want to go for the digital transformation, but it's not easy. So do you have any saying for our companies or banks watching this video? What should they consider before they stepping into the digital transformation process?
If you look at the success of transformations, or not just digital, but any transformations, there are probably more failures than successes, right?
Really?
Because, yeah, the reason is because you don't know what success looks like in these transformations typically because there are multiple elements involved and it's always evolving continuously, right? I think the key measure is taking people along and making sure that you're actually creating value. I think value creation is the most important aspect of any transformation. Now, if you look at what I would have as a suggestion for companies embarking on digital transformation, I think the key is to understand why you need to actually do that, right? Before you answer the what, you should answer the why.
Why?
And people don't answer the why. People typically say that everybody is buying a mobile banking app. Let me also change. Everybody is going to cloud. Let me also go to cloud. That is not transformation. Understanding why you need to do that and then understanding the value creation part are probably the most important aspects. Then comes the how part, and then comes the next. So I think for any company embarking on digital transformation, that would be my recommendation. Understanding the why part and understanding the value creation part first before embarking on anything else. It's just not about Techcombank's transformation, but that this is a part of nation building. We're actually using Techcombank as a metaphor to actually transform and build Vietnam and put Vietnam on the map. I think the ability to actually create impact at scale is tremendous. And that's Techcombank's mission. And that's my mission. And that's every employee's mission.
Since you're talking about the why, I'm curious, what is the burning desire, the aspiration of Techcombank when stepping into the digital transformation?
So if you look at Techcombank's, I think transformation, I would give a lot of credit to the chairman and CEO, right? I think they are kind of very visionaries and forward thinking in the point that you need to. It's just not about Techcombank's transformation. One of the key things that pull me to Vietnam is also that this is a part of nation building. We're actually using Techcombank as a metaphor to actually transform and build Vietnam and put Vietnam on the map. If you look at Vietnam has the second largest GDP, third now, but close will overtake Thailand soon in ASEAN. Second highest GDP in ASEAN, soon to be. And we don't have a top 20 bank. It's just a travesty of justice. So the bar is pretty low, in my humble opinion. I think the ability to actually create impact at scale is tremendous. And I think that if not anything else, to just put Vietnam on the map is such a compelling purpose. And that's Techcombank's mission. And that's my mission. And that's every employee's mission.
Amazing. So with your extensive experience in the field of data, what do you think is the most important consideration for banks when they apply or build a data strategy?
Any bank that tries to build a data strategy should first understand the business strategy. So your data strategy should be aligned to the business strategy, and understanding what your business drivers and, as I said, the value creation part is very key while building a data strategy. Some would warrant your data strategy to be defensive because the business consideration would be that, hey, I'm in a regulatory mess and my focus would need that to make sure that I answer the regulators. That will require a very different strategy to a bank that says, hey, my focus is now on meeting customers' expectation, growing the business. So your data strategy needs to be aligned to the business strategy, and that's extremely important.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, the business strategy and business decisions, I would like to know more about what types of data do the banks often collect from the users, and how do they apply all of the data into the business decisions?
So typically, if you look till around 10 years back, probably, or even 12 years back, all the data was in relational database form, right? Or structured data, as I would call it, in rows and columns. So that's how data has historically been stored. But as I told you, there's been an explosion of data, typically with the advent of social media, and with people call it big data, but I just call it yet another form of data. And that has kind of warranted new storage mechanisms. So if you look at the types of data banks typically collect, it's every possible form. I'm a big fan of collecting every piece of data. And I believe in this strong adage that more data trumps smarter algorithms. So you should have every form of data, whether it is big, small, good, bad, ugly, whatever you call it. So whether it is images, whether it is digital media, whether it is video recordings, whether it is structured information, feedback, every piece of information is valuable. No piece is not valuable. So that's number one. Second, storing each. Now with the advent of cloud technologies, the cloud providers themselves provide various storage mechanisms. But each of it, we don't need to go into the technicalities of it, but each format can be stored and in the cloud, and it's much easier to access than before. So all this has been simplified with the advent of technology.
Yeah. So can you provide some specific examples where banks use the data analysis to make a change, maybe in perception or maybe in the behaviors of the customers?
Sure. So if you look at our how we actually use data to change customer behavior, one of our great examples is setting customers a target for your savings goal. So a great example is to ask customers to squirrel away your small change information, change of money that's available, and then put it into a small savings account, which is separate from your main account, and then kind of see that multiply over a period of time. And this can be done using a small gamification process. That's a very simple example. The second on how we can actually change behaviors is to actually have customers through what I call having these personal financial analytics or personal financial recommendations, where you see customer spend patterns. For example, on your credit card, you spend on groceries regularly, and then suddenly in a month you overspend on your groceries. What we can actually do as banks is then give a personal recommendation to a customer to say, hey, this month your spending seems to be more than what is there. Then have you managed your finances well? So observing all these spending patterns and the behavioral patterns that the customer exhibits, and then advising the customer from a customer perspective to make sure he or she actually benefits from it is the most important aspect of what I call putting data to good use. So the key is to ensure that the customer's expectations from that insight is meaningful. This should not be a case for a product push, and that is not something at whether Techcombank or it's not our philosophy. The key is, can the customer actually benefit from the recommendation that you're making, and is there a methodology or framework that Techcombank provides for you to actually implement that? That's most important.
Yeah, so personalization is great. However, I know that data security or cybersecurities are common concerns of the customers when they know that they are providing their personal data to some organizations. So at Techcombank, how do you ensure that the customers' data are secured and make sure that they can trust the bank?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, I think historically, the fundamental premise for banking is trust, right? So I think why do people store money in banks rather than storing it at home? It is because of trust, right? And I think the banks, one of the key important aspects of any banking existence is all about making sure that you are able to store and the data effectively, customers' data in an effective manner. At Techcom, we have three specific areas that I want to talk about. The first is how well our cybersecurity and our overall data protection exists, right? So from our data is all stored in the cloud and AWS, and that data is protected using our AWS keys. So, and that's the first level of protection. The second is we have the right levels of access. So we call it access control. So we have the right levels of access for the right set of people. Not everyone can actually access the data and in a free and easy manner. So within the organization, you need to have a certain role to have access to that data. And even if within those roles, we store data, some data is encrypted, some is tokenized, some is masked, and then the access is only provided on a need basis. The third, and probably the most important, is we also collect consent. So customer, Vietnam also has this PDPD decree, which is now PDPL shortly. And that is a very important aspect of how we actually ensure that we get customers' consent before using the data. So we make sure that for all our customers in Techcom, we have consent which is provided. And only if consent is provided, we use the data. If consent is not provided, we don't use the data.
Yeah. So let's talk about the predictive analytics. How has predictive analytics improved the risk management at Techcombank? And more than that, I care about how has it changed the scoring and the loan approval system of Techcombank?
So if you look at predictive analytics or analytics, I think analytics has really transformed our risk function in a major way. And the first is it has enabled us to reach out to segments that were previously not banked at all. So we have the ability to reach out to other segments who typically don't have access to finance, primarily because you don't have credit history.
Yeah.
So typically you need credit bureau, right? And if you have a credit bureau information, then it becomes easier to underwrite. But Vietnam is a huge population. It's a growing population. It's a emerging market. And many people don't have access to formal credit. This thing. So we have access to alternate data, and our ability to help understand customers' credit appetite and credit worthiness using alternate data is an important factor in us reaching out to other segments. So credit has really improved. We have been able to bank the unbanked, as I would call. Second, our Gini in some of our models have improved by more up to 20%. And that is a huge uplift, right? So we have been able to improve our Gini. And that primarily has been done because we've got our machine learning models and our feature store and our ML ops in place. So we have close to 8,000 features and it's increasing by the day about a customer. And this helps us to understand customers from multiple dimensions. Just to give you a sense of statistic, 2 years back, we had close to 100 features. And we were underwriting customers for the last 30 years. In the last 2 years, we now have 8,000 features. So from 100 to 8,000 in 2 years. And that has actually helped us to underwrite at scale and expand our business.
Yeah. So I wonder, can the data help us to identify the customers' financial needs even before that they realize they have the need?
Yeah, exactly. To what I was telling you earlier, right? There is a huge unbanked population today. And either through, if you have a relationship with us, with a banking account, it becomes that much easier for us to provide credit to you. So we encourage customers typically to open a banking account with us. That becomes easier because as you transact, as we get to know you more, it's much easier to provide you credit. Rather than if you just walk in through the door and say that I need a loan, it's much more tougher. But what we have also started to do is understand the behavior of customers. Because the moment you have a relationship with us, then we can understand you more. And then to your question, we can then give your extend credit or facilities much more in a proactive manner. I'll give you an example. Take a customer who has typically credit card spent, right? And who typically spends, say 200,000 dong on a transaction, and monthly credit card bill is 5 million dong. That's the average, you assume, is the profile of a customer. Suddenly, in a month, he or she wants to have a purchase of 30 million dong. That is huge. So proactively, we can offer them an installment loan and then say that you can convert this 30 million purchase into 12 monthly installments. And that's a very simple example that I gave you. But our ability to understand that this customer has never spent more than 5 million in a month, but suddenly he or she has spent 30 million, and we need to probably help this customer. Another example I can give you is a person buying a house. So you buy a huge property, and typically you would need mortgage insurance, and you don't need to go shipping for insurance. So typically when you buy, we all automatically tell the customer, hey, these are the benefits of insurance. Having the mortgage insurance, it acts as a cover and is helpful to you. So these are very simple examples. As we start collecting data, as I told you, we encourage customers to open the banking account and relationships with us. And as they start interacting more, we understand more, and we'll be able to underwrite much faster, and we'll be able to provide credit facility much faster.
Wow. Yeah, very useful applications. And I think that data is the input, but the ability to understand the data and the customer will bring a lot of values to the customer. So besides data, we talk a lot about the AI and generative AI nowadays. Can you share a little bit about the AI-driven banking model and architecture? What is that, and how can we understand it in a very simple way?
I wish there was a simple way to understand AI. So AI and generative AI are currently the hottest trends or topics, as I would say, in the field, not just of analytics, but across the world in the field of technology and across industries. AI is the ability to achieve an outcome in an automated manner without human intervention. A generative AI, on the other hand, is the ability to provide multiple options for a question asked. So, if you look at AI, the first definition of AI actually was provided by Professor Alan Turing, right, in the 1950s, when he talked about a computer being sentient. But like I said, right, can it reach the level of human understanding? And I think that's quite far away. Of course, there are multiple camps today that says that computers can become like humans soon. I really don't know. And but as a practitioner, I still think it's a few years away, because humans are generally definitely a very advanced set of species, and trying to replicate a human being into a machine will take much more than just having a set of neural networks joined together. So anyhow, so the fact is that AI, as I told you, I'll give you a simple example so that you understand what AI means. You go for a biometric scan. You take your passport, you go to, take Singapore, for example. I'm from Singapore. So if you want to go to immigration, you just show your face and you don't even need your passport. So automatically, so it's all AI driven. So it recognizes the biometric, it says okay, and then automatically it processes that. Now take generative AI. A great example is, can you generate marketing content? And that's the definition of generative AI. So generative AI actually creates different kinds of content and options, and gives you multiple options, and then you'll be able to choose those options from it. So earlier, the work which a human was doing, that's why generative AI has become that much cool right now. So AI is more about finding a answer and giving authenticating or giving it a right response, while generative AI is all about giving more options and then making sure that customers can pick that answer from that multiple options that's been provided.
Oh, I think it's very easy to understand. So applying to the banking, how can we understand the AI-driven banking architecture?
So if you look at AI-driven banking architecture, right, I think the key is to understand how our systems interact with us and where the abstraction layer exists. And what I mean by abstraction layer is where the customer brain, as I told you in the beginning, what we have built is a key component of any AI-driven architecture. So the first is, you need to have, obviously, your code needs to be at the base, and this code needs to be hollow, and it needs to be skinny. And what I mean by that is, you cannot have a clunky core and expect an AI-driven architecture, because your systems need to talk to each other in a seamless and fast manner. So you probably need a hollow core, and you need it to be pretty easily accessible. The second layer is to create what I call the intelligence layer, and this is where the intelligence sits. And recently, I think Satya Nadella made the point that SaaS software will be dead, software as a service. And I think we have been building on that premise by making sure that all the intelligence sits within the customer brain and is not embedded into the front-end systems. The third aspect of this is actually the AI services. So you need a strong foundation or core. You need the business intelligence, what I call the intelligence layer. And the third aspect is the AI services. These AI services are the ones that sit on the top and then enable the connection between the various channels, interfaces, and other segments that help you to actually connect all these three together. That, in a very simple way, is a three-tier architecture for an AI-driven banking. Of course, it's much more complicated than that. But as you wanted it to be simple, I kind of created a three-layer lasagna for you to understand.
Yeah, I understand. What about the generative AI? What is that, and what is its implications for banking, especially a Techcombank?
I think generative AI probably is the start of what I would say a cognitive revolution. And what I mean by that is, it is going to force humans to become a lot more smarter, much more faster than they anticipated. And the reason I say that is, as I gave you the example of marketing content that can be created using generative AI. Earlier, you had a digital marketing team that actually would sit and think about content and start creating multiple contents, put pieces together, and then come up with templates. With generative AI, it kind of gives you those templates faster.
Yeah,
So
in a few seconds.
In a few seconds, exactly. So the whole idea of synthesizing and putting pieces together becomes that much more easier. So the implication for banking is going to be manifold, and truth be told, I don't think we have kind of understood it in its full extent. But what we in simple terms, you should understand that generative AI is like electricity, right? So we should understand that with electricity, you could have an appliance like an iron box, you could have an appliance like washing machine, you can have an appliance like refrigerator. So think about the various, what I call agents, AI agents that can be built on top of this appliance, electrical thing called generative AI. So in future, if you ask me, every person in this bank or in the world will have an AI agent or multiple AI agents to assist them. That's where I think we'll be going in the future. Adoption of AI is easier said than that. Two biggest barriers are people and culture. People feel threatened, obviously, because they think that AI will replace or take their jobs away. Culture could also play a very important. People are so attached to what they're doing that they don't want to change. Other element also that, so if you feed garbage, you will only get garbage out. Inaccurate data or incomplete data is not helpful either.
So we've talked a lot about how AI can help the banking system, but what barriers might arise during the application integration of AI into the banking operations?
I think adoption of AI is easier said than that, right? And I think the two biggest barriers are people and culture. And people feel threatened, obviously, because they think that AI will replace or take their jobs away. And culture could also play a very important part in not letting people wanting to let go of what they're doing. People are so attached to what they're doing that they don't want to change. There's a other element also that your AI is only as good as your data. So if you feed garbage, you will only get garbage out, right? So inaccurate data or incomplete data is not helpful either. So people, culture, and also the quality of information. It's like training a child. If you teach the child well, the child will grow up to be intelligent.
Yeah.
If you teach the child stupid things, the child will only do stupid things. Don't expect a child to develop intelligence on its own. So I think, yeah, these are the three things that probably you need to, that there are many more, but these are the top three, if I were to say, that are impediments in the adoption of AI.
Now I understand why people and talent is another key pillar among the three pillars at Techcombank digital transformation journey. So let's talk about people and talent now. You've mentioned that people and culture are very important in the journey of improving the digital transformation. So at Techcombank, how can you build and train and create a culture among people in the same team, especially for the digital team?
So to promote a culture of adopting AI, I think it all starts by role modeling. So it should start from the top, right? From chairman, CEO, and the management team. We have kind of been a big, I would say role models, but we have been people who have kind of actually been advocating. And we have been role models to a great extent in the sense of actually practicing what we preach, right? So a lot of us still go for courses. We are all pretty hands-on at the management team level. We still actually not only just talk about AI, but apply AI on top of what we are doing to see how it actually impacts. But going back to specifically how people can actually change their mindset, it's more about what I would say, learning to fail within a set of boundaries. Having a safe boundary to experiment and fail is very important. Because, and the reason I say that is because you have a culture where you are expected to be perfect. It becomes very difficult to experiment with AI. And with AI, you need to know, yes, in a bank, you can't, it's not like Google or Facebook where you can run multiple experiments. But again, you do have safe boundaries with which actually you can experiment. In fact, I believe constraints help you to innovate better, because the moment you have constraints, you will be able to do things in a much more better manner. So ability to fail within defined boundaries is important. Second, a culture of curiosity is extremely important, and wanting to learn. And in the pace at which technology is changing, you need to unlearn and relearn. So the combination of curiosity and the ability to unlearn and relearn is the most important things. And last but not least, linked to all this is just not being curious, but the ability to ask the right question. And if you're able to, because that comes from understanding, not asking questions for the sake of asking questions, but asking questions for the sake of understanding, and questions that are very relevant. And that comes only with deep understanding. So the skills of the future will demand that people embrace these. And yeah, that's what I expect.
Yeah, so I understand that in order to imply all of the digital transformation, it requires every department of the same organization to join in. So at Techcombank, how do you foster the collaboration between different teams, and how to make sure that everyone is in the same page together?
Look, this is an ongoing process, right? And I would be just lying if I sat here and said we have mastered the art of collaboration. Collaboration is one of our core values, right? And I think what we have seen is we are improving by the day, and definitely teams are coming together. Again, we role model it from the management team level. The management team sits together in a room on tables across each other. So whenever there are issues, we just pop over to each other and ask. And we have the first family principle. So basically, the management team is our first family. Then my team is the second family. So the moment we start having that first family principles, we are able to do that. But more importantly, I think collaboration is not just about role modeling. It's also about tools and processes, right? So at Techcom, we also have the agile, the whole concept of what we call Techcom way, which our agile team has pioneered so very well. And we are not just used agile for the sake of using agile, but agile truly where we even changed our processes to suit that. The third that we have done, and which actually is kind of helping us move the needle in this, is we are breaking down processes. We are changing processes. And if we find something that's too cumbersome, we are encouraging people to talk about it, and then we kind of remove that. So a combination of role modeling, a combination of being instinctively agile. And what I say by instinctive is not just agile for the sake of being agile, but wanting to solve the problem for the customer, having that mindset. How can we actually solve the customer's problem fast? And then working together. And it doesn't matter which departments. I think the department is there for you as a brand identity. Eventually, we all serve the same customer. And I think that mindset is very important. At Techcom, we have championed what we call this multifunctional teams, and where people from across all departments come together. And if there is a journey or a KPI that's associated with a customer, that's common to this team. So it doesn't matter whether you are from RBG business or whether you're from IT or data or compliance or risk. But if you're working together on a particular initiative that serves a particular customer journey or process improvement, that KPI is common to all the team members. That makes it that much more interesting. Those are some of the things that we are doing at Techcomway to foster collaboration across teams.
Yeah, that's great. And one more thing that I wonder, in the era of digital transformation and technology advancements like this, do you think that the role of the HR department, the HR teams, will evolve and be something different? And if yes, in that way, what will be their new responsibilities?
Yeah, if you look at HR function, definitely there will be a huge shift. I think typically HR are looked at people who are answering queries about policies and procedures in organizations, right? Those tasks will get automated. Say, I think those people, you should have your chatbots or your tools available where you can ask a question about a policy or procedure and get an answer. I think the role of HR will become true strategic advisors. And if you remember in the podcast earlier, we spoke about hyper-personalization for customers. HR will have to do hyper-personalization for employees. And what I mean by that is, since your mundane tasks are automated, then HR will have enough capability and bandwidth to focus on the employee and then give a true personalized experience. Let's take learning, right? Typically, we have, okay, these are your learning courses for a department. How can you make learning personalized for an individual? Even within that department, individual A might have a very different learning need than individual B. And today, I don't blame HR because their bags are full, because they have so much of work to do. But if all the mundane work is automated using AI, and there's a lot of generative AI that helps them to answer other aspects, then they can focus on truly engaging with the employees and giving them a hyper-personalized experience, not just in training, but also proactively monitoring employees' health, mental well-being. Is this employee going to act right? Will this employee stay with us? And going through the journey with the employee as a true partner. That's how I see the HR function evolving.
Yeah. So in decision making, how do you think we can balance between the human intuition and the AI-driven insights? And is there any process, or is there any area that we really need a human there to ensure the quality of the AI?
So if you look at decision making per se, data and instinct are two sides of the same coin. So I don't think they are disparate elements. The way that I see it is, you need data. Human mind is always synthesizing and analyzing data. As I speak to you, I'm analyzing data. As you listen to me, you are analyzing data. So we are wired to instinctively absorb data. But at some point, data can only take you to an extent. You need to trust your gut, your instinct, and that's where you make the decision. So along the journey, you will have data, you will synthesize data. At some point, you will drop off and you will have to use your instinct and gut to make the decision. That process is something people need to understand, that AI can never replace and will not replace. Because if you look at how AI is also going to work, it will kind of automate a stream to an extent to which it can actually take the automation, push it to the extent possible. But after that, you need to make a decision. There will be some straight through processes. Things like I told you, face scanning, the example that I gave you. You don't need a human to validate. Your face is your face. As long as it's validated, it's great.
Yeah.
But I'll give you an example where you might require human intervention. Take a fraud score or a fraud alert. So AI suddenly, based on its the way AI has been structured, AI suddenly recognizes that there's some fraudulent transaction. And then it might then give it up to a fraud analyst to say that, hey, I think this transaction is fraud. This is the reason which I think is, I'm suspecting this transaction to be fraud. Can you please actually further validate and then tell me whether my means AI's analysis is right or wrong? That's where a human can come. The second is credit underwriting. You can't just allow AI to fully underwrite the credit without having a human in the loop, right? Because AI, yes, you can automate some aspects of it, but eventually you need to have a credit analyst to make the decision and then get this done. So yes, more and more will get automated, but I definitely see human in the loop. We'll need less humans, obviously, but I don't see the human going away entirely. There'll be some aspects where the humans will go away. There'll be some aspects where the humans will not go away.
Yeah. So we've seen a lot of technology advancements in the past decade. What do you see in the upcoming 5 or 10 years? What will be in the game? What will show up? And especially how it will change the banking ecosystem?
If you look at history of banking, I think the future of banking will be conversational. And what I mean by that is, when banking started, initially you had to type everything on a computer. Then you started to do clicks. And then touch screen came. Now you do touch, correct? From typing to clicks to touch. The next evolution, I think, will be speaking. And I'll give you an example. And speaking, I mean, is conversation. Assume you're driving your car. You're going to work. This is how the future of banking is going to look like. I'm giving an example to all our listeners how the future of banking is going to look like. So you're driving and going to work, and you have your radio and your AI agent is sitting next to you in your phone or whatever device. As you're driving, it says, today the stock market's crashed and there has been the news comes in. And then you suddenly want to say, hey, I want to do what's happened. So you pause the news and then you switch on your AI agent and say, hey, hey agent, what happened to my stock portfolio? Then it says, this is what happened to your portfolio last night. There was a stock crash, this is your portfolio, this is your balance. And then you say, okay, what do you think we should do? The AI agent says, you probably need to rebalance your portfolio, and I would recommend you sell your stock, buy bonds. And then this is when you're driving. And then as you're driving, you tell the AI agent, okay, great. Then why don't you make some recommendations? Then the AI agent says, these are the bonds I would recommend to buy. And then you say, okay, sounds good, place the order. So by the time you're actually driving, and even before you reach the office, the AI agent has actually done banking for you.
Yeah.
And this is how the future of banking will look like, where AI agents will play a part in your everyday life. It's like your assistant. So you don't need to log in, you don't need to touch, you don't need to authenticate. All that will be done through these agents. Now, that's what I call as, since you asked what's the future of banking, and that's how the future of banking is going to evolve. That's how I see it. And what will happen is you will have the difference between an AI agent and to the automation is that the AI agent today has intent or goal. So an example is when you say buy a stock, that is an intent. It's a goal. So the AI agent will have to log in, authenticate, open your app, go to your this thing, understand your position, place the order, execute the trade, and then update you. There are multiple steps involved today. And that is the intent or goal that the AI agent will achieve. So in future, I look at this whole AI agentic architecture. That's going to be big. Banking will become conversational. You will have this AI agentic architecture. Quantum computing is going to be really big. While people might say 10, 15 years away, but every progress that it makes is going to disrupt the speed of banking. And that's going to be a big technology that's going to evolve. There are many more that's going to come, but I'll give you just 3 examples. The third that I'm personally gung-ho is on this distributed ledger technology, or DLT, where you actually store data on distributed ledgers, or blockchains as they call it. So that's going to kind of decentralize the way you store data and also increases trust and transparency. So agentic AI, distributed ledger technology, and yeah, so these are so overall, I think if you look at how the future of banking is going to shape, I think we are going to have every person in future will have a AI agent or multiple AI agents with them. That's going to help them with their daily lives.
Wow, incredible. Incredible to know. And to wrap up, what are some final words that you wanted to speak to our listeners today? There may be some Techcombankers who are watching us. There may be someone who are interested in the data and AI and interested in the banking system, or anyone who is watching. Any words? Do you want to speak to them?
I think we are living through history, right? I think the pace of change is just incredible. And if someone says that I have mapped out the future, everything is clear, I think they are blatantly lying. We are living through a period where even a 5-year plan in the next 1 year might not be valid, right? So what I would I like this great quote from Peter Drucker, right? The best way to predict the future is to create it. So and in this era, we have the tools, technologies, and capabilities to do it. So I would say the best way is to kind of actually enable and embrace AI, and just not AI, but also the tools and also the capabilities that it brings, so that we are in control of our destiny. The moment you change the narrative that you are in control, obviously you cannot control everything, but wherever you can and exercise that control, then the predictability increases. So with our ability to manage that, I think the future I'm an optimist. I think Vietnam's future is extremely bright. It's one of the fastest growing economies in the world. I bet my future on this country. So I think Techcom is well positioned. We, like I told you, our aspiration is to use Techcombank and to put Vietnam on the map. And the population is young and hungry. So we have all the ingredients with us. And Vietnamese are smart people. So what more do you want? If we can put all this together, it's a great recipe for success.
Can't wait to see that. So thank you very much for joining the Pioneer podcast and sharing all of the insightful information. I think that our audience today love our podcast.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is also the wrap-up of our first season of the Pioneer podcast. So if you are interested in our episode today, you can definitely take a look at the YouTube and the Spotify. And remember to subscribe if you want to know more. Of course, the news coming or the second season coming soon. So thank you very much for enjoying and watching the episode with us. See you again next time.